All right, we're live, Gaza. Welcome to the Pro Go Baduk and Weiqi Podcast. I'm Xiao and I have already reviewed your name.
Yeah, I'm here. It's Gaza.
Gaza. Gaza. There's no excitement today, so let's get some excitement into the podcast.
What do you mean? No excitement?
Yeah, well, it's the Nongshim Cup.
Nongshim Cup.
I've no idea.
Nongshim Cup, unbelievable, mate. We've waited all year for this.
Yeah, bro. This is one of the best tournaments of the year, mate.
Mate, the biggest. It's the biggest tournament of the year.
Yeah. Or maybe. Definitely one of the ones that I look forward to the most.
China versus Japan versus Korea.
Yeah.
All or nothing.
Yep.
You win, you stay on. You lose, you're out.
Yep.
We covered the the end of the previous Nongshim Cup, but this is the first Nongshim Cup that we're covering from start to finish.
Yeah.
In this podcast, yes.
Exciting stuff. So basically, it's a win and continue tournament. Five players from each country. And
which countries are those?
As we've mentioned, it's China, Korea, and Japan.
Right. So 5 players from each of those 3 countries.
Yep. And you just at the beginning you just draw which 2 countries face each other, and the winner basically gets to stay on, and the losing country will get swapped out with the country that's on the sidelines, and then and it continues until there's only one man standing.
Until there's one country standing.
One country standing, but usually there's one player standing. But
So yeah, sometimes a country will win once the other 2 countries are eliminated. So it can happen that sometimes players won't even get to play.
Yeah.
Because their team has already eliminated everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's normal.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah, and the most extreme example of that can be just one player just winning 10 games in a row, and basically that one player can single-handedly eliminate 2 other countries. So then the player, the country that player is from, 4 players don't have to play because that one player has beaten everyone else.
Yes, mind you, that's never happened.
That's happened before. Someone came close though.
Well, yes, but we'll see if that happens this year. Yeah. I mean, in this Nongshim Cup, that would be, again, it would be unprecedented.
Unprecedented, pretty crazy stuff.
Yes, yeah. Just to give an overview, a quick preview of the teams. We probably covered this in the last podcast, but let's just quickly go over them again. Korea has their strongest team.
Yep.
According to the rankings, they have, of course, Shin Jin-so.
Yep.
They have Park Jun-hwan, Byun Sang-il, Kang Dongyun, and Shin Minjun.
Crazy.
Team China have, 5 of, they've got a lot of strong players to choose from, and they've chosen, the 5 that they've chosen are Ke, Gu Zihao, Lian Zhao, Tuo Jiaqi, and Fan Tingyu.
Yep.
And then Team Japan, they've actually picked the same team as the last Nongshim Cup.
Yep.
And that is Iyama Yuta, as you see on the screen there.
Yeah.
Ichiriki Ryo, Shibano Toramaru, Hsu Chiayuan, and Yu Zhengji.
Yeah. Exactly the same team as last year.
Yes. And that team came second for the first time in a while.
Yep.
Looking to go one better, of course, but it's not going to be easy.
Not going to be easy.
And as you said, they do have a draw to determine. So, obviously, there are only 2 players in a game of Go. So, they draw to determine which 2 countries will play the first game. And then the third country will join in game 2.
Yep.
So, this time around, it was China and Japan who were drawn to play in game 1. And who were the 2 lead-off players?
It was Fan Tingyu and Ichiriki Ryo.
Yes. Now, Fan Tingyu is a bit of a lead-off specialist.
Yep.
He has led off for China 5 times in the past. Now, that's a record for any country.
Right.
So in Nongshim Cup, this will be his sixth time leading off for China. And
Right.
as we've mentioned before, on two previous occasions, while leading off for China, he's won 7 games in a single Nongshim Cup, which is a record.
Yeah.
Overall, he's won 18 Nongshim Cup games, which is only one behind the record of Li Changhe.
Yep.
So he'll be looking to break that record or at least equal it in
Yeah.
this Nongshim Cup.
Yep.
On the other hand, Japan's Ichiriki Ryo, he in his younger days, he used to lead off for Team Japan, and he actually has a pretty good record leading off.
Yep.
He's on 3 occasions he was the first player for Team Japan in the Nongshim Cup, and on all 3 occasions he won his first game.
Very nice.
Um,
And
so-
I think he also counts Lee Se-do as amongst his scalps as well. In Nongshim
well,
Cup.
let me quickly check that. Yes, Lee Se-do in 2016.
Yeah.
That was the last time he led off for Team Japan. Who in 2014 he actually beat Byun Sang-il
Yeah.
leading off for Japan. Byun Sang-il was very young back then. That was actually, I think that was his debut as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a very good record leading off, but he has been in quite poor form domestically.
Yeah.
I think he's only won one of his last 4 games.
Oh.
So I wasn't a big fan of the choice to go with Ichiriki
Right.
for Japan for game 1.
Yeah.
To be clear here, there were only 3 players that Japan could have picked for game 1 because Iyama and Shibano are actually playing each other during this week.
Yep.
So which we'll cover that game later in the podcast. So they were going to be unavailable.
Yeah.
The problem is that 2 of the 3 players remaining are actually, quite out of form. Ichiriki, I believe he has only won one of his last 4 games.
That's not good.
And Hsu Chiayuan has only won one of his last 5 games.
Oh no.
Yeah, so Ichiriki's won one of his last 4. Hsu Chiayuan has won one of his last 5, yes. And on the other hand, Yu Zhengqi has won 4 of his last 5. So it seemed to me that Yu Zhengqi would be the best choice
Right.
for Japan for game 1.
Right.
But they went with Ichiriki Ryo.
Mm-hmm.
So an interesting choice, and well, let's see whether it worked for Team Japan, whether this gambit paid off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ichiriki Ryo is black and Fan Tingyu is white. Is there anything we want to mention about this game, Gaza? Because I think you can tell from the moves here that Ichiriki Ryo is trying to be very attacking, very aggressive, and it kind of just didn't work. It just fell flat. He was basically pretty soundly beaten by Fan Tingyu. So
It seemed like well, initially it seemed like Ichiriki was trying to bully about Fenty. It seemed like Black here is trying to bully around White, and White is just ended up becoming too solid, and once White managed to make his group sort of stable, or enough of his area stable, Black sort of was really thin everywhere. It seemed, and yeah, you already see at this point in the game, Black's got a lot of stones everywhere, but not many points to show for it.
yeah, and I think technically after when White played this, Black can actually Atari and connect under and save these 2 stones. But I think Ichiriki Ryo decided he has no time to do that because imagine if he saved his black stones, then I can attack these 4 black stones here. So he kind of just jumped out a little bit. But I think this is the part of the game where I thought Ichiriki is already a little bit behind, and then they started this fight over here. It didn't work so well for Ichiriki. You see, and then once I think when I looked at the commentary, it says once Fan Tingyu got this cut, and it's just too many groups for Ichiriki to deal with. I think it's at this time it's become a really hard game for Ichiriki. So no surprises there. I think they kept playing.
Yeah,
for quite a bit.
Yeah, so it was at around this point in the game where I started following it because, so I was, if you go back a few moves, maybe 5 moves or so. So, I went to my local Go club at this point, and there was a professional. We actually have a professional at the club.
Yeah.
And I was playing the moves over the board, and the professional, he didn't know the Nongshim Cup had started. That Nongshim Cup was on today.
Yeah.
So he started following the game with me at this point, and the problem was that White was already very much ahead here, and he pointed out that basically even if Black, manages to save his group on the right, for instance, White can play at the top, and just get so many points, and Black's really just doesn't have enough to compensate. So if you go forward a few moves now to move 133. So then Black decides he needs to get some real estate at the top right. He needs to get some more real estate. And so they play that out. They play out a sequence here. And the thing is, Black does get a few moves. Like that, Black does get a few points, but it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. So then Black, he plays that. He plays those moves in the middle left that you just played through, and starts a ko. Now it turns out here that Black actually does have more ko threats than White.
Right.
And so they play out these ko threats. As you can see, so those stones at the bottom, so Black, those stones at the bottom ended up dying, but Black wins the ko. The problem now is that White gets 2 moves on the left, and that those Black stones on the left are now in trouble. And Black needs to not only save those stones, but he needs to basically prevent White from making a lot of points on the left as well.
So that's when Ichiriki resigned. It would just become a bit too hopeless, and this group might die. But even if it lives, maybe it's not enough.
Even if it lives, it's not enough. But I don't think it lives.
So overall, I mean, when I was looking at the game, I just thought Ichiriki, he obviously had a strategy in mind, which is to be ultra aggressive, but it just didn't work. I'm not sure if it's because of the form or whatever the reason was. It kind of just fell flat. And Ichiriki ended up losing the game, so it's 1-0, one win for Fan Tingyu.
1 win, mind you. So it should also be pointed out that the team with the most wins doesn't necessarily win the Nongshim Cup.
Right.
It's just whoever is the last team left after the other 2 teams have been eliminated. So Japan are now down to 4 players. And the next games, and Fan Tingyu stays on, and he'll now be facing the first player for Team Korea,
which will be Shin Minjun.
Yes, Shin Minjun, and I thought this was a great choice for Korea. I feel that regardless of now, recall last week, Shin Minjun won the Myungin in Korea against none other than Shin Jin-so, and he won 2-0. Very impressive. So he's in great form, but I think even if he lost that, they probably would have picked him anyway.
Right.
To go first because he is the lowest on the rankings.
Right.
The Korean rankings of those in the team. But yeah, the timing couldn't have been better because Shin Minjun is in great form at the moment. Obviously Fan Tingyu is also in great form. So now Shin Minjun, he also has a quite impressive record as the first player.
Yep.
In Korea, he's only actually been first player once.
Right.
For Korea, but on that occasion he won 6 games.
6 games, yay!
Yeah, he won 6 games, including beating Fan Tingyu in game 1.
Very nice. Yes.
But I believe since then he's only won 1 of his last 4. I'll just quickly check that.
Yeah. While you checking that, let's just notice something, which is this jacket that Fan Tingyu is wearing. You may notice that it was the same one as the game 1. Now, apparently, amongst the Chinese players, they have this superstition where basically they think that if they win a game wearing one set of clothing, they would just kind of try to keep it the same. Obviously, I imagine they would change the underwear, but they would try to kind of wear the same thing because it kind of brings some good luck or makes them feel more comfortable or more confident, whatever it is. So just pay attention to that. It's actually you'll notice that Fan Tingyu wearing this.
Yeah, that's not all that's that's not all that outrageous a superstition. I think there are many many people that do similar things. But yeah, I just checked. Since those 6 wins, and that was his debut, by the way.
Right.
He's only won 1 out of 5 since then.
Yeah.
So he hasn't. His Nongshim Cup form recently has not been great.
Yeah.
But his current domestic form is very good. So he should put on a good effort here. But how did he do against Fan Tingyu?
Mate, it's a bit of a disaster, to be honest. Now you did. It's interesting that you say that it's a good decision by Korea to bring him out because he's got good domestic form. But I think you also do remember that you do say that his form is quite inconsistent.
Yes, that was the other thing regarding Shin Minjun. He's historically been extremely inconsistent. 1 week he might, just go nuts, and then the next week he'll lose in a qualifier or something. But you would expect that over time his consistency would improve, and to win titles like he did win the Myungin, you do have to be consistent. Like you need to keep winning games. So I was expecting that perhaps he would still be in that sort of winning form, or at the very least, obviously Fan Tingyu is a formidable opponent. At the very least, he would give Fan Tingyu a fight. But I followed this game, so this game happened on Wednesday, and neither of those things happened. Shin Minjun lost, and to be honest, it was quite a disappointing performance, I would say.
Yeah, and I was watching the Joe Yang stream, and he said, Fan Tingyu just play, normally, but just Shin Minjun just play so bad. But I mean, anyway, this is kind of one of the first moments I remember of that game. So in this game, Shin Minjun is black, Fan Tingyu is white. And I just remember thinking, when white cut here, black can't even Atari out. Black has to kind of connect back by himself, like there. And later on, when white plays there, is actually also Sente. So at this point, after white cut, I thought white is actually leading. But when I checked the AI, it's actually about just 60% to Fan. So only Fan is leading only a little bit. But I just felt that this is really, really, really painful for black, having to connect back like this. Was there anything else you remember about the game, Gaza?
Well, yeah, I didn't really understand much of this game, but it seemed to me that every time, like Fan Tingyu, I would say didn't play an outstanding game here, but it seemed like every time he made sort of a suboptimal move or an inaccuracy, Shin Minjun just return the favor. It seemed like never took advantage of any sort of opportunity. Just played very slow. And when he first plays into the center here, like if you go back a few moves, like move 109 or something like that, even further, like move 105. Look at Blackstone. Like it doesn't look good in terms of making. It looks like he's left it a little bit too late.
Yeah, it's got white stones on all four directions. So.
I mean, I'm probably Black can live, but I think at this point Shin Minjun was already in Byoyomi, and he made it hard for himself, and I think this Black group ended up.
I think this Black group ended up living, but I think Fan Tingyu got something very clever out of it, and a code down at the bottom. So I think
yes.
I think that's what happened. Yeah. So look how clever this move is. The tiger's mouth, because when you push through, there's now can throw in. This is exactly what happened. So ended up fighting.
Yeah, and White's got so many co-threats.
Yeah, because this Black group isn't alive, so you can do anything and make it a co-threat. So after this is captured, I guess it's pretty much game over. And I think Shin Minjun did end up trying something, trying to live down the bottom. But I just remember watching the commentary. It says the way the Shin Minjun plays here is just trying too hard, because there's no way that this was going to end up being a good result for Shin Minjun. So after this, Shin Minjun decided not to continue anymore because it's a bit too hard. So it's just not going to have good results over here. So Shin Minjun lost. So therefore, Fan Tingyu's won 2 games in a row.
Yeah, and Shinjin Zo fans are probably thinking to themselves, where's the Shin Minjun that beat our hero last week? Mate, why wasn't he playing the type of moves he was playing last week? Yeah. That's probably what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But I mean, Shin Minjun of all people would be the one most disappointed with his performance.
Yeah. It wasn't great.
And it just looks like, I mean, it's another. So now it's another slow start for Korea.
Yeah.
And not only this, but this actually puts Fan Tingyu on 20 Korea Nongshim Cup wins.
Yeah, which means
he now holds the record for most Korea Nongshim Cup wins, overtaking the legendary Lee Chang-ho.
Yeah, but I guess to tell you the kind of my assessment of it is that even though Fan Tingyu's got more wins than Lee Chang-ho yet now, but Lee Chang-ho's achievement still stands tall. Like I would say Lee Chang-ho's achievement in the Nongshim Cup is still way more significant than what Fan Tingyu has achieved, because you have to remember Lee Chang-ho is often the last player. He had to do beat like sometimes 4 or 5 players to keep the Nongshim Cup with Korea. So
yes, in actual fact, the first 6 Nongshim Cups, Lee Chang-ho was the last player for Team Korea.
Yeah,
and on all 6 occasions, it got down to him. So his teammates all, some of them won some games, but all of them ended up losing along the way.
Yeah.
And it came down to Lee Chang-ho, and on all 6 occasions, Lee Chang-ho won outright. On 5 of those occasions, he had to win multiple games.
Yeah.
And in the 6th edition of the Nongshim Cup, he had to win 5 games to win for Team Korea. His 4 teammates combined only won a single game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So he had to win 5
to
secure it for Team Korea, and he did.
Yeah.
And to give it, and so he didn't lose. He was undefeated in the first 6 Nongshim Cups, and he totaled 14 wins and not a single loss.
Yeah.
So we talked about Fan Tingyu on 2 occasions winning 7 in a row in a single Nongshim Cup.
Yeah.
So the record for the longest winning streak across multiple Nongshim Cups is Lee Chang-ho's 14 wins, which is 14 wins just in a single, like for a career in Nongshim Cup would put you in the top 5.
Yeah, crazy.
I'm pretty sure. I think it would put you in the top 5. He did it without losing.
Now, now even though we talk about the Nongshim Cup, before the Nongshim Cup, there were I think, if I remember correctly, at least one, if not 2 tournaments with exactly the same format. So 3 countries, 5 players each, and they kind of do this win and continue. And if you count the wins in those tournaments, so tournaments that they came before Nongshim Cup, Lee Chang-ho's actually got 29 wins, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there were 6 tournaments that predate the Nongshim Cup. So the Nongshim Cup started in 1999.
Yep.
Now there were there was the SBS Cups. So they started in 1991 and they finished in 1997, and there were 6 of those.
Yep.
And Lee Chang-ho competed in those ones as well. And yes, as you said, if you combine those tournaments with the Nongshim Cups, Lee Chang-ho has 29 wins.
Yes. So I would actually say that even though Fan Tingyu has broken Lee Chang-ho's Nongshim Cup record, his achievements are maybe not at the same level as Lee Chang-ho. And also, if you count all such tournaments, he's actually still behind. So that kind of puts you into perspective of how great Lee Chang-ho was in his time. Crazy.
Yes. You can't undervalue Lee Chang-ho's achievements. And that's what makes Fan Tingyu so great. Like to win 20 Nongshim Cup games, you have to be good enough to make the team across a long period of time. But not only that, but win against other countries along the way. Yeah. It's quite difficult to do. We see players who have peaked, but they can't maintain it. Players like Kang, Shi Wei. I mean, Shi Wei is still a great player, but when he was the best player in the world, or arguably the best player in the world, it was very brief.
Yeah, 100%.
Park Young-hoon for a period of time could have been argued as the best player in the world, and then a couple of years later he wasn't. Yeah. So and then you've got great players like Ko Jae, who in 2015, 2016, burst onto the scene and then very quickly became the best player in the world, and now it's been nearly 2 years without a world title for him.
Yeah.
And he's considered one of the best of all time. Yeah. And then you've got Lee Sedol and Lee Chang-ho, who were arguably the best in the world for multiple years. Lee Chang-ho was probably number 1 for over a decade.
Yeah.
And that's why he's considered, the greatest player since, of the post-war era, or at least of the world major era.
Yeah.
Because 100%. Not only was he so great, but he was so great for so long. He outlasted multiple generations of Go players.
Yeah, 100%. Every time I see Lee Chang-ho play today, I still think of it as a treat. So it's a great. So,
but this week, we should be talking about Fan Tingyu and winning 20 Nongshim Cup games. As we said, it hasn't happened before. No. Lee Chang-ho has won, 29 across all of the win and continue tournaments, but just for Nongshim Cup, Fan Tingyu has won 20. It's unprecedented.
Yep, it's
he's still only 26, I believe.
Yep, he's only 26, believe it or not.
So he's just been a phenomenal player for China. And a lot of China's Nongshim Cup wins have most certainly can be primarily attributed to his performances.
Yeah. And now on to game 3, where Japan decides to bring out Hsu Chiayuan.
Yes. So So obviously Fan Tingyu stays on. He won, so he stays on. Mm-hmm. he just eliminated Korea's first player, so Japan now have to bring their second player, and they're bringing out Hsu Chiayuan. So it had to be either Hsu Chiayuan or Yu Zhengqi.
Yep.
Because as we mentioned, Shibano and Iyama are not available.
Yeah.
And Hsu Chiayuan is the other player for Japan that's in bad form. He's won one of his last 5, but they bring him out.
Yeah.
So it just seems a little bit. It just seemed borderline silly to me to bring out the players with bad form, whereas China and Korea are bringing out players with great form. Like Fan Tingyu has been in superb form this year.
Yeah.
I don't think he's won a title, but he's made multiple finals. He's in fantastic form. He's doing well in Jar League.
Yeah.
Japan, I mean, they're bringing out 2 players who have combined to win 2 of their last 9 games. It just it seems like it almost feels like they're not taking it seriously. But but Hsu Chiayuan I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah.
Like I said, he'll take the fight to anyone.
Yeah.
It's just that I felt that it's not a smart tactical move by Team Japan, but we'll see. Maybe they know more than I do.
Yep. But by the way, the national team coach for Japan is Cho Yu. So definitely. So I think this decision I think in the interview, Cho Yu said that he makes a decision about who comes on. Kind of have to be partly based on the schedule, because the scheduling. But anyway, this is game 3. So in here, Fan Tingyu is black. Hsu Chiayuan is white. And as you can see here, up to this point, I think a lot of the commentary that I've watched says that it looks like black is in a little bit of a trouble. And you can see why. This group is, probably, it doesn't look like alive to me anyway. But apparently black can play here to kind of try to connect back some of the group, but the tail might have to fall off or whatever it may be. And kind of this is the moment where, and also Hsu Chiayuan has actually spent a lot of time to get to this good position for himself.
Yeah,
but this looks really precarious for Fan. Yeah.
Pardon? What was that?
I was saying this looks really like precarious for Fan.
Yes, it does look precarious for black.
Yeah.
Yes. But I guess we haven't mentioned what are the time controls.
Oh, yes. Okay, Nongshim Cup in the past was considered a fairly fast tournament because it's 1 hour thinking time each, and I believe only 1 minute Byomi one time.
Yes, so once you use your hour of main time, you have to make a move every 60 seconds.
Correct. And if I'm not wrong, I think by this time or near around this area, because this local area is kind of complicated because, for example, black has at some point might be able to pull out these 3 stones, and there's actually a lot of empty space down here, so it is very complicated local fighting. And Hsu Chiayuan's actually used up almost all, I think if not all of his main time to get to this good position. So, and Fan Tingyu, if I recall correctly, still has like 20 minutes or more on at this point. But anyway, so this is a really tough fight for Fan, and it looked at some point it does look like that maybe Hsu Chiayuan will repeat his performance last year, in that he was able to beat a Chinese player. But can Fan Tingyu get out of this? I think he kind of did, because I think this Hane was kind of the first move where I thought he's fighting back, and so Hane is out, it connects, but Hsu Chiayuan did end up capturing quite a bit of the tail, but at least black didn't all die, and black kind of captured these 4, so it wasn't all too bad. But I think the AI does favor white a little bit, actually by quite a bit. But anyway, a game keep going, and Fan decides to cut over here, and Hsu Chiayuan managed to save these white stones, and they just kind of keep fighting. Now, it's very interesting here because apparently AI says that Fan can play here and try to seal off all of this, but actually Fan just decides to take the safer option, just say I'll take the safe territory here. And then Hsu Chiayuan played very nicely, but I think at this point he's in Byomi. He couldn't see all the variations. But supposedly, there's a way that white can play here to kind of make the white group leap inside black's influence. And apparently, Hsu can probably ignore this move because this white group is actually okay. He can actually Tanuki and just make this white group live. So that's a missed opportunity for Hsu because he didn't do that. But anyway, it actually got the fighting got really, really complicated. And it's still fighting very it's very complicated here, and I think at this point it's kind of back to 50-50, something like that.
I think at this point Fan Tingyu was in Byoyomi as well.
Yeah, but doesn't matter because they got into this another very complicated fight. This black group is not alive. This white group definitely doesn't look like alive. This white group could get cut off, but white still has this push through. So there's like a lot of things happening here, and it was very, very, very complicated. And I think it just so happens that Fan managed to come out on top in this very complicated situation. So yeah, it ended up having a code over here.
It was extremely complicated. Yes,
it's really, really complicated. Okay, so what ended up happening was that Hsu actually ended up capturing quite a bit over here, but Fan was able to attack this group, and I guess now Hsu has to kind of try and live here to have a chance. But
yeah, so I don't think if you go back here, go back 2 more moves, and the one more move, I don't think this was the right move here. I think he needed to go up 1 more,
like over there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it may have failed anyway, but
but it does feel desperate at this time, because if Hsu Chiayuan could have moved this white group, he could have done it earlier. But the fact he's doing it so late in the game means that it's probably like a last ditch effort. I think it just realizes he doesn't have enough. So black broke all of this and captured some white stones down here. Black's got all of this. I think maybe it's not enough for white, but kept fighting. But I think even try this. So that's it wasn't gonna work out for them. I think they keep fighting but I think at this point Hsu Chiayuan decides to give up. He just
I think he's only behind by like 5 points or something. It's not not 5 points on the board, 5 points with the Komi.
Right, yeah. But it's
there's no way to make that deficit back.
Yeah, so I think he just decided to give up on the Yosei. So congrats to Fan. This is 3 wins in a row, and I believe if you win 3 games or more, then every game you win, your game fee is 10 million won. So the way Nongshim Cup works is that only the winning team gets prize money. If you come second or third, you don't get any prize money, but the player who played do get a game fee. And I do believe the game fee is normally 3 million won, unless you get to 3 wins or more. And then basically from the 3rd game on, you get 10 million won per game, per win. So if Fan Tingyu can continue this winning streak, he'll start earning more game fees than normal. So that's
also Fan Tingyu now has 21 Korean Nongshim Cup wins, which breaks the record of 20 set by Fan Tingyu the day before.
Yep.
This game, well, I wasn't sure about the result, but the way the game went out was what I expected from a game involving Hsu Chiayuan. He certainly brought the fight to Fan Tingyu. It was definitely the best game of this Nongshim Cup so far.
Yeah.
It didn't work out for Hsu Chiayuan, obviously.
Yeah.
I do feel that he probably got into Byoyomi a little bit too quickly. However, yeah, it seemed like the game was just really, really complicated, and it just didn't go in his favor. I definitely feel that his loss here is not on the same sort of standard as Ichiriki and Shin Minjun's losses.
Yeah.
But the result is no different.
No, I think he did. It definitely gave Fan Tingyu the most trouble out of the three players.
Yep.
Okay, so now on to game 4. So
and this game 4 is, by the way, the last game of the opening section of the Nongshim Cup.
That's right.
So we didn't mention this, but the Nongshim Cup. So since there are 15 players, and games are played until 2 countries are eliminated, there can be up to 14 games.
Yeah.
There's obviously, since 10 players have to lose, there's at least 10 games, but there can be up to 14 games.
Yeah.
Now, they play it in 3 sections, according to a calendar. So this week was the first section, and it's always just 4 games. The next section will be at the end of November, and that will be 5 games, so games 5 to 9.
Yep.
And then next year, early next year, will be the final section, and that will be games 10 to 14.
Yeah.
However many games are necessary. So there's always 3 sections. The third section, you don't know how many games there'll be.
Yep.
But the first section is always 4 games. And this game was played, it finished about 3 hours before this recording.
Right, yep.
It won't be 3 hours before your viewing.
Yep.
It will probably be at least a day after your viewing.
Yep.
But it was played on the Friday,
Yep.
the 14th of October. And since Fan Tingyu won, he stays.
Yep.
China still have all 5 players. Japan have now lost 2 players. Korea are bringing in their second player. And who is that?
That would be Kang Dongyun.
Kang Dongyun. So Kang Dongyun, he is actually the oldest player in this season's Nongshim Cup.
Yeah.
Across all teams.
Yeah.
He's 33.
33, yep.
So he's not old.
No.
I'm just saying that because I'm older than him.
Yep.
But no, he's not old. He's not old. But he is the oldest player in this year's Nongshim Cup. So we can consider him a bit of a veteran. He is most certainly a veteran. He has over 900 professional wins.
Yep.
He certainly has the most wins of any player.
Yeah.
In the Nongshim Cup. Not the most Nongshim Cup wins, of course. That's Fan Tingyu, but the most career professional wins across all competitions.
Yeah.
You would think that since he's an older player, that he may not be as proficient at the fast times.
Yeah.
The faster games, but that actually can't be further from the truth, because as we've mentioned in a previous podcast, he won a title this year for the first time in many years, and it was in a very fast tournament, the Weiqi Construction Cup.
Yeah, a competition with no main time.
Yeah, a competition with no main time, 10 1-minute Byoyomis.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he actually made the final of another fast tournament, the Yongseong.
Right.
Which has 20 minutes main time and 20-second Fisher increment.
Yeah.
So he's actually proven himself to be quite adept at fast games this year.
Yep.
And what a year it has been for Kang Dongyun, especially when you consider his performance overall last year.
Right.
He sort of had a bit of a resurgence. I mean, we didn't have a podcast last year, but last year if we had a podcast, we would have been clowning on him and his Jar League record, I would say.
Yeah. It was like 1 for 7 or something. Can't remember.
Yeah, he did very poorly in the Jar League last year and almost got his team relegated. Fortunately, I guess the relegation games ended up being this year.
Yeah.
And that's when he found his form again. So
yeah.
And he managed to help his team avoid relegation.
Yeah.
And he's just picked it up from there. He's doing solidly in this year's Jar League. He's become a very reliable player.
Yep.
And he's back into the He's back into the Korean top 5.
Yeah.
And now he's back in the Nongshim Cup team. I think he was in the Nongshim Cup team. Well, he's been in it many times, but I think he was in it 2 years ago.
Right.
He was actually the wild card selection 2 years ago, and I think he lost his first game. So
right. Yeah.
He's looking to he's taking on Fan Tingyu, and Fan Tingyu is on 3 wins, and you know, history has shown, you know, how Fan Tingyu plays when he's on a roll.
Yeah.
So he looks to be unstoppable, but was Kang Dongyun able to defeat him?
Well, in short, yes, and basically this was not a good game for Fan. I think some people were saying maybe he was too tired or whatever it may be, but in this game, Fan is black, Kang Dongyun is white, and this is the first moment of the game that I remember. So when White Atari's here, obviously Black really wants to connect, because when you connect, White is in 2 pieces. But after doing some reading, some calculation, painfully, Fan Tingyu decided he actually can't. Because I think when I watched the commentary, if Black connects and White harnesses, and this Black group would be in trouble. So Black was in trouble very early. So by move 42, he's already in trouble. So he couldn't connect. So he has to Atari.
So would that have been a misread then? Because it does look like Black really wants to. If you go back to the position, it really looks like Black wants to connect here, because that would put that white group on the left in trouble. But obviously,
you can't. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, as you've just said, I can't read it out. I can't see the continuation, and we won't play it out because we don't have the we don't have the right board here to show the continuations. But obviously, there must be a reason that Fan Tingyu didn't connect, so it must be because White isn't actually in trouble on the left. More so the Black group.
Yeah. The black
group there is going to be in even more trouble. Yeah, so it does seem like Fan Tingyu must have overlooked something here.
Yeah, well, the problem must have come a bit earlier when this fight started here, because if Black can't connect after.
Yeah, I think it could have been. I think it could have been even earlier. I think it could have been the first time Black plays on that middle line. I think there. No, go forward. There. That could have been the first misstep, because it allows that response by White. It basically forces the cut. And
now I haven't looked into this, but I do remember watching a stream where actually at least one other pro was thinking that this would be Black's move. So a lot of pros thought this looks good, but whatever transpired, whatever happened, it just didn't work out for Black. So this is the first moment I remember about the game. Black just couldn't connect, and after that, Fan didn't really have a lot going for him. But of course, Fan Tingyu managed to make this group alive. But it was not a great result, because from 2 white groups that were cut off, it's now one whole white group, all connected. But anyway, they keep fighting. But I think Fan Tingyu did end up putting up a good fight.
Wait, can you just stop there? Can you just go back a few moves?
Yeah.
Now, here, at move 73...
Yep.
So, move 72.
Yeah.
So there seemed to be there was an AI suggestion here. So if you go back one move...
Yeah.
Now, instead of White playing where he did... The AI suggests that White actually Ataris those 4 black stones first.
Atari, yep.
Yeah. And then Black just fills in, and then White extends.
Right.
And that must be for RG purposes.
Yeah. Well, at least one less eye for Black.
And, it's a very AI style move, but the AI definitely, I think the AI says that the game is actually about even now, although it seems to be a little bit easier for White to play. But for some reason, it really liked that Atari. It was just something that I wanted to mention. It seems like something that only an AI would do.
Right. Or you have really deep reading. It could be something that happens sometime. It might be a benefit sometime in the future or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they ended up fighting a little bit here, and I just remember that by this point, both of the commentators that I watched says that I mean really Black should come out, try to save this Black group here, because after White cut and pushed through, you look at how dangerous this Black group looks. No eyes yet, and it was very dangerous. But anyway, Fan managed to live, but it just wasn't good enough, even if he did live. Yeah. So
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, so now Fan, the group at the black, that black mini dragon at the top middle there, that's actually in trouble now.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough.
Yeah. But Fan did try to start a fight over here. Now the commentator keeps saying that at this point, instead of Black connecting, Black really needs to connect here to kind of save this group. And but I guess then White will cut this off, and maybe Fan thinks that that's even worse for his chances, so he decides to sack the top part, and you can see White squeeze out Black's eyes.
I'm guessing that if Black doesn't connect there, either the group on the left is the group on the left definitely alive.
The group on the left, this one,
the black one, yeah. I think it is actually.
Yeah, it probably is completely alive.
Oh no, I think I know why. It's because Fan Tingyu still wants to attack. I think it's because Fan Tingyu still wants to attack White's middle group.
Yeah, so this middle group technically isn't fully alive.
No, so if Black lets White connect or cut off.
Yeah.
Cut off there. Yeah, cut off there.
Yeah.
Then White's got no problems.
Yeah, and I think that's what Fan is thinking, because he must realize that he's quite behind at this point, so we want to put up a fight, but then White just says, "I'll take the point." So now at least the tail is dead, but according to the commentary, Black can still make these 3 stones leave, but just the tail is probably gone, and of course the corner is not 100% safe. But anyway, so Fan Tingyu decides to play here, of course, threatening to capture the tail in a ko. But Kang Dongyun just says, nope.
This was a great read by Kang Dongyun. He says he doesn't. Keep going. Yeah.
Is it nope?
Yeah, he basically goes, I'm not worried.
Yeah. I mean, the tail can be saved with a ko, so you need at least 2 moves, and I can live here. Basically, that's what he's saying. He said, "I'll take the points first."
Oh yeah, and then this one here. And then Black plays here. So is White gonna save those 2 stones? What does Kang Dongyun do? What's his next move? He just fills in the ko. He's like you can take that group. You can take those stones. I don't need them. I have more than enough points.
Yeah. That seems to be what he's saying. So anyway, so Fan says, "I'll take that. Take some points first." And Fan really needs to live with this group now. I guess he can't let everything die, but if he lives with this group, then it kind of hurts the corner a little bit. And so I guess eventually he has to live in the corner. But I guess really the only chance for him to win is really to put so much pressure on this group, either to kill it or gain a lot of profit. But there's no room to make profit. It does feel like that the only chance is to kill, but it just
and then here Kang Dongyun, he always has, if you go back a few moves, so when Black plays here, so White can always capture those black stones. He doesn't. There's what if so White captures the black stones now, because otherwise, if Black connects, White is actually in trouble in the top right.
Yeah, it's not alive, this group. Yeah, so White takes.
Yeah. Before Black played at the 4-2 point.
Yeah.
If Black ever connected, White could always capture those stones in the top right.
Yeah. So it's a bit BI for
it was only at the point where White could no longer do that when White captured those stones.
Yeah. So, and then I guess Kang decides to live with this group. It's probably alive.
It's just, oh no, that group's definitely alive.
Yeah.
Like that's two eyes,
Yeah,
isn't it?
and, well,
Yeah,
I,
no,
I
no,
think
it
I think
is.
I
It
think
is.
White can maybe somehow make a eye somewhere around here, maybe in
No, I think White
Gote.
can make two eyes on the right.
Yeah, so I guess now White probably can make eyes here. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever it is, it's at least like a code, but it's not going to happen. It's just because White can cut here. It's lot of stuff. But anyway, this looks like there's no more room on the board. I guess Fan Tingyu decided, yeah, he just doesn't have enough points. I do believe he was behind by by um, by maybe 10 points or something, more than 10 points.
Yes, it was more than 10 points. It was also worth knowing that Fan Tingyu got into Byoyomi before Kang Dongyun.
Yeah.
Kang Dongyun used his time management was spot on
Yeah.
in this game.
Uh,
And it honestly seemed like game one.
yeah.
Fan Tingyu tried to attack as black, tried to attack white.
Mm.
And the veteran Kang Dong-yoon just withheld all of Fan Tingyu's aggressiveness
Yeah.
and profited from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if you look at the AI chart, it's kind of just up for Kang. So probably you would have to say it's a fairly comprehensive victory for Kang.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know. It didn't seem like a typical Fan Tingyu
Yeah.
game. Not the same standard that he played the previous games. But Kang Dong-yoon hardly put a foot wrong in this game.
Yeah. So congrats to Team Korea for stopping Fan Tingyu in his tracks. So it's now Korea's first win. So therefore,
Yeah, so Korea still keep 4 players.
Yep.
China are down to 4 players.
Yep.
And Japan are down to 3 players, and Japan will actually be bringing out the next player.
Yeah, which I think the game will be happening in the 24th of November. Japan have decided to bring out Shibano Toramaru. So, yeah.
Right. So they're bringing out Shibano Toramaru.
Yeah.
And Shibano, okay, so Shibano's been in very good form recently. Mind you, his form has been in longer time control games.
Yeah.
But he won the Qishi League with a perfect record.
Yep.
He obviously won the Meijin League to challenge Iyama. And in the first 4 Meijin games, he's won 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So his form this year has been quite good.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can maintain that form. I believe he's the current Ryusei champion in Japan, and Ryusei is like the Yongseon in terms of time controls, very fast.
Very fast.
So he does have ability at fast time controls.
Yep.
But I'm not sure what his Nongshim Cup record is. I'm going to quickly check.
Now, speaking about Shibano, I do remember his last 2 Nongshim Cup performances. The last one was probably, you would have to say, a bit of an embarrassment. He got completely destroyed by Won Jin.
Yes, it was a bad one.
Yeah, and the one before that, he had a great game. He beat Shin Minjun. Yeah, so
well, actually, that can't be the one the second last one, because he must have lost. Oh, he beat Shin Minjun, but then he lost to Tang Weijing.
Yeah, so yeah, it was but at least Shibano got 1 win. But that's gonna happen in November.
Yeah. I've just checked. His record in the Nongshim Cup is 2 wins, 3 losses.
Right. Yeah.
Which is actually the same record as Koje.
Koje, yeah. Well,
speaking of Koje, by the way, was he not streaming Game 1 of the Nongshim Cup?
Oh yes, Koje was streaming Game 1 of the Nongshim Cup, but I think we shall get to him a bit later.
Now that's actually a bit. It's actually a bit funny because I just want to mention quickly this because sometimes we've seen players participate in the same tournament commentate other players' games.
Yeah.
But usually those players have already been eliminated.
Right.
So I believe when Shin Minjun was playing in the LG Cup final
Yep.
against Koje, I believe Shin Jinso was one of the commentators.
Right.
And then when Shin Jinso was playing in this year's LG Cup final, Shin Minjun was one of the commentators.
Right. Yep. That's right.
So I don't think it's unprecedented for a player who also played in the tournament to commentate a game. But I don't think I've ever seen a player who is scheduled to appear later in a tournament commentate an earlier game.
Right.
It seems a bit strange. And mind you, this wasn't an official commentary on like an official channel. The other ones that I mentioned with the LG Cup commentating, that was on Baduk TV.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like Shin Minjun and Shin Jinso at the time, they were guest appearances.
Yeah.
And Baduk TV has the typical, a caster who is typically a woman and, a 9-dan pro or a strong pro.
Yeah.
Who is also doing variations and stuff. And then in those cases, they also had Shin Minjun or Shin Jinso as a guest. In this case, it's just Koje on his private from his house.
Yeah. Commentating.
Yeah.
I must say I did try to watch some of the stream, and he didn't talk about the game very much. He was just rambling on about random other stuff, of which I think one of them will report on. I think he also said something very interesting. Is like he actually asked the audience right at the beginning. Says, "Hey, do you guys want me to commentate much on the game? Because I really don't want to, because I think my level is way higher than my viewers, so you guys won't understand anyway." Like something like that. Which was it's a very strange thing to say, but anyway, he did say what he said. But yeah.
Very interesting.
Interesting guy. But it's good that that they decided to bring out Shibano, because Shibano is who we're going to bring out in this podcast next as well. Because we're going to.
So why wasn't Shibano picked earlier in the Nongshim Cup?
Because of this thing, which is Game 5 of the 47th Meijin between Shibano and Iyama Yuta, which happened on, if I'm not wrong, day 2 and 3 of the Nongshim Cup.
That is correct.
Correct. So yeah, they probably couldn't have picked them unless, of course, the game finished in day 1 and
they lost.
And one of them lost.
Imagine picking Shibano's because they imagine if they picked Shibano for game 1 because they expected him to lose.
Yeah, no,
that'd be terrible.
That'd be terrible. But it was game 5, so that means 4 games have been played before this. And the score was 3-1 in the favor of Shibano. And of course,
best of 7. So Shibano only needs to win one more game.
Correct.
And he's the Meijin.
And that's exactly what we talked about last week. And Yama is the current Meijin. But of course, in the last Honimbo, Yama was down 1-3 versus the same opponent, Shibano, as well. And Yama went to power his way back to 4-3 and retain the Honimbo title.
Small correction, that was last year's Honimbo.
Last year. Yeah.
Last year's Honimbo, yes.
Yeah, last year's Honimbo. Because this year's Honimbo was, of course, Yama versus
Ichiriki Ryo, and we have covered that in previous podcasts.
Yeah, that was a 4-0. But anyway, let's focus on Shibano Iyama Yuta. So, of course, as we mentioned, Shibano only has to win this game, and he would have regained his Meijin title. And now,
who's white, who's black?
And in this case, black is Shibano Toramaru, white is Iyama Yuta. Now, it's quickly. I think I just remember saying, "Oh, there's actually nothing happening in this game." It was very bland up to here. Remember, this is a 2-day game, so they do tend to play quite slowly. And I thought up to here, there's nothing happened until this move happened, which started a massive fight. So Yama decided to start a fight over here. Shibano played here, and I just remember they were spending the longest time on this local area here.
Yes, there were times where there was definitely at least one time when Shibano spent an hour on a single move.
Right. That was pretty crazy, and I would imagine that they would have gone through all the variations locally, But so basically, I guess Shibano, basically to me, this is Shibano saying, well, why don't you push and cut? Why is daring Yama to do that? And I do remember, if I remember correctly, when we look at the AI does suggest you should push and cut right away. But anyway, it doesn't. But
I think that the push and cut is actually
right.
Is actually fine, and it does. So the what happens is that those two black stones that would get cut, they get captured. White captures those two stones. But black gets a nice moyo in the lower right.
Right. So it'll be a
because black can cut off that one lone white stone in the lower right.
Right.
The idea is that it's a trade.
Yeah.
But the AI says the trade is fine for white. White's actually ahead by a little bit.
Okay. But anyway, no, regardless what actually happened, for whatever reason, Iyama Yuta decides that after reading on in this local area for a while, he decides that Hane first and then push and cut would be the better way to do it. But whatever happened, I think they also spent quite a bit of time here. Now,
so I think the idea here is that, so the thing is, capturing those black stones now on the right side is actually more difficult. May not even be possible now. But the idea is that white eats into that moyo, I think.
Right. So that could be what is thinking. But I think here Yama definitely made some kind of a mistake, because I think because Shibano's next move was very, very hard to deal with, because you didn't imagine that these three stones would be dead. Well, they kind of are, but Shibano decides to move them out a little bit, which made it difficult for black to capture it in one move.
Yeah, this is a great move. When you see a move like this create an empty triangle looking very inefficient, a lot of the time if it's played by a pro, it's because it's a genius move, and this is the case here. It just makes things so much harder for white that white group.
Yeah, because normally white can just capture it with one move, but just by moving out, now white can't do that. It might instead have to kind of move this out first to extend the liberty of this guy first before he can do anything. So, so. And then white decides that, hey, I don't want to capture this anyway. So he kind of eats into the moyo. And I do believe the sealed move is what Shibano plays next. So this is at the end of the first day.
This is 64 moves. They played 64 moves. For reference, in game 2, they played 107 moves on the first day.
Right. Yeah.
They're just thinking so hard about this, and you can see here. And you can see why. So instead of what the AI suggests, where white captures the right, the territory on the right, and black gets a nice big moyo in the lower right. Now white has captured those two black stones. Well, white is going to capture those two black stones in the lower right. White didn't into the moyo, but now black's cut off white stones in sort of the upper right area. And those white stones are now in danger of dying. And then the question is this a better exchange for white? And the AI, I mean, it's very hard to tell, and the AI says it's not. But I think it's hard to tell, because it's hard to know if those white stones are dead.
These white stones, they may or may not be dead. I mean, maybe it could live, but it's not. It's hard to tell, and it's also a risk for Yama to move them out as well. But what if you spend more moves there and actually end up dying? It's actually then you definitely have lost the game. Like it's really hard to say. But we shall see this feature again later on in the game. But anyway, this is the sealed move. I think, if I remember correctly, a lot of the commentary or even AI suggests that black should just play here to live simply. But I think Shibano just made a push and just kind of So these white stones are probably dead, probably. After Shibano made this move. But anyway, so Yama decides to play on the outside, and Shibano. I think at this point Shibano thinks that he's probably leading So he can probably try to play it safe. You see how he just protects the
Yeah,
corner.
just getting some
Yeah.
cash now.
Is it no? This black stone can die, whatever. And I think his assessment is quite accurate. But I think Iyama Yuta played again. This local area fighting is very complicated here. So Shibano just has a cut. This is probably the most complicated way to play.
Yeah, and the AI doesn't like Shibano moving over to this area, and we will find out. We will find out why.
Yeah.
The AI wanted Black to make one more move in the top right, and we'll find out later why.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
and if you look at that, if you look at White's Black's move 95.
Yeah.
That's 99. If you go to blue, it's a very painful slow move, and Shibano must be thinking that he's leading.
Yeah.
In order to make it, just seems like a very timid move, and all throughout this Meijin, Shibano has been playing aggressive, taking the initiative, playing attacking, go, and it's been working.
Yeah.
And he for the first day of this Meijin, he was doing the same.
Yeah.
And I feel that this move is the start of Shibano sort of playing a bit more timidly and it's not positive. I just feel like
of course this area local fighting is also very, very complicated because you see this white group is not fully connected to the outside. This white group is not fully connected. So it's some kind of crazy capturing race. It requires lots of deep reading. So anything can go wrong for either side. It's really, it's very complicated. But anyway, Shibano decides to do this, and Shibano decides to also live in the corner.
Just live. So he's given up Sente. So he must think that he's got enough here.
Yeah, and of course, and I think you see Yama's fight back very soon. So Yama decides to play here. Now, this may look a little bit slow, and it's kind of like, but anyway, it's actually, I think this kind of is the beginning of the end for Shibano, because once Yama become very strong over here, and basically Shibano still had to play a move, and I do believe these stones are actually not yet dead yet. For example, Yama can play here and fight the Ko.
Yes, it's a Ko. Yes.
Yeah, so it's not dead. So Shibano played like a few moves here, and these white stones are still not dead. So, but I do believe that at this point maybe it was AI still says slightly better for Shibano. But I think the fight back move really started here, where this move here, this is an incredible move. Yeah, right.
By White, and I think. I'm really not sure. Do you think that Shibano maybe missed this move?
I'm not really sure, but I when I saw this move, and I just remember thinking there must be something that White can do, but I just can't quite see it. And I was trying to read. Of course, the natural move for me would be just to play Black played here, and I just trying to read what can White do, and I can't really figure it out. But I just feel. There's a bad feeling about this if I was Black, but I just don't see it exactly what they would do, but anyway, whatever it is, I do consider this to be the winning move for Yama because it makes use of these white stones here, and you see what's happened later on, which is quite incredible. But by the way, this is Shibano would be still leading according to AI somewhere around here, I imagine. I didn't read the AI for this, but anyway, so Shibano played the move that I thought would be, or what I would play, and I couldn't see what White was going to do. Okay, but then White obviously cuts off this guy. I think at this point, after playing here, I think in a capturing race, Black will still win. But we'll see what happened.
So the AI, by the way, AI didn't like move 107.
107. This one. Right.
Yes, it actually preferred Atari on the other side, yeah.
Right, Atari, maybe connect here and then let White and live. Yeah, it looks hard. It's hard to decide.
It's really, really complicated. But the problem is, if you played the sequence out from where Shibano played, you'll see that Black gets cut off. Yeah, so Black does get cut off in the corner, and Yeah, so now it's problematic
Yeah.
for black. It's really problematic.
Yeah, there's a fight back here for white. Yeah, so white. Oh, and then I think white ended up capturing or saving this group. Okay, so now this group is now saved. So
no, it's okay, yeah, no, saving that group, but the thing is here, black can just take those 2 white stones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the AI says that's what black should do because the thing is, like for any Q player would take those 2 white stones.
Right.
Because not only does it capture the 2 white stones, it saves those 3 black stones above it.
Yeah.
Now, so any Q player would immediately do that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, that's what the AI suggests as well.
Right.
But Shibano doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And this is basically, the AI says this is basically the beginning. This move here is basically the beginning of the end for black.
Right.
This move 123.
Right. And I think for a human player, I can kind of understand Shibano why he didn't do that, because if he did that, that's like saying white saved his group in Sente, right? It's like a psychological thing where he says, no, I don't want you to save this group in Sente. You can take this, but my groups are still okay. But of course, if black takes this, then this group is completely safe and very thick. But anyway, Shibano decides to take more points.
Yeah, well, and then yeah. So then let's see what white does. He captures it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So white's basically, Iyama's basically saying, fine, have your Sente. I'll just get more points.
Yeah, I just take this, and now you see, now your group, I can just push here and disconnect your 2 groups, and neither of your groups are technically fully alive yet, even though you can probably capture these white stones. But we'll see what actually happens. It's actually really incredible. I think it's just incredible. So anyway, for whatever reason, Shibano plays here, and then start some more fights. Now this move, I didn't fully understand, and now, but I don't know what AI's assessment of it was. I mean, it's kind of like playing. Well, white is already thick, and you play here, like you hane out, but I can just disconnect. So and then so there's maybe nothing there, but it looks like, but actually Iyama is actually planning something, and that's the preparation. So now Iyama decides to move this group out, which is quite incredible because I thought this group was pretty dead, but anyway, he moves it. Black blocks, and then does this. Black blocks, and now Iyama plays here. Now this, like, again, you see what Yama's planning. But so anyway, Shibano decides that actually maybe now, maybe there's some issues here. I didn't read it out, but yeah, Shibano decided maybe this was a good move. I'm not sure if this was necessary. I'm just not sure. But of course, if he didn't move, why can maybe like Atari and then Atari again, and then could disconnect the 2 groups? Maybe it is necessary, but I really don't know. But anyway, he moved out. But then this is a very curious move. Kind of extends the liberty. So he's trying to set like a fight, like a capturing race. But of course, black can clamp here. So what's white planning? Of course, he was not gonna just let this white stone die. He's gonna Atari out. And I think you can only do this after white has played these kind of things.
Yes, I think yes.
I think this 2 moves was in preparation
because white doesn't have enough liberties otherwise.
Right. So maybe that's what it was about.
Maybe some high amateur Dan players can see this sort of thing as a life and death problem.
Maybe some viewers can tell us what's happening. But I think these 2 moves were in preparation for doing this kind of thing. But now, I'm not sure if Shibano would be surprised by that. Maybe Shibano already knew this, but he can't prevent it or whatever. But now it's a proper... I'm not sure if it's even a capturing race. Maybe black is just straight dead.
It's a ko. All
right. It ended up being a ko or something. I think, so...
Well, no, it is a ko. You can see the ko at that spot.
Yeah, so to me, that's just crazy. Because we thought this white group was dead. But somehow... Yama, by preparing something on the outside,
and it was all starting at that move, that Tetsuji move 104.
And then it ended up just being able to capture this black group, or at least take quite a bit of points from that. So I think after that, it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can call it a code, but look, White's got 3 liberties on the outside, so yeah, it's probably not that easy. Yeah.
And yeah, Black doesn't have nearly enough code threats.
Yeah, no, so yeah, I think at this point Yama's already.
Wait, is it even a ko though? Because I'm not sure if it even is because
Yeah, no, it's I think well, White's got firstly White's got 3 liberties, but
no, actually, if you go back to move
yeah
194.
194.
So yeah, Black takes the ko.
Yeah.
And
White can Atari from
and
behind.
then White just Ataris, yeah.
And then Black takes.
So it's not
White
even,
can
so
throw in again.
yeah, well, it doesn't matter, does it?
Well, when White throws in, Black can take. So
Oh
it's a
yeah,
throw.
no, oh yeah, no, and then Black. Okay, so then
But-
Black plays move 199.
Yeah, but then White's got 3 liberties, so that means for Black to win this code, White gets 3 moves on the outside at least.
Yeah, right.
So it's not gonna happen. It's not really. Yeah. So anyway, I would have thought that after this Black group's gone, yeah, Shibano.
Yeah, so
lost. Yeah.
But it is a ko. It's just that Black needs tons of ko threats.
Yeah. And White gets to play 3 moves on the outside,
Yeah,
if not more.
not. It's just not reasonable.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen anyway. And I think this White group ended up living, or at least it's a Seki. Then yeah, Shibano resigned at this point. But I guess after this Black group's gone, there wasn't really anything Shibano can do. But hey, it was a crazy comeback for Yama. He's been planning this, and therefore Yama pull one back, and they're now 3-2 in Shibano's favor.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Shibano played a little bit slow.
Yeah.
You know, around move 100, as we were saying, but I think this was a well played game by both players.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Iyama's move 104. That was a great look into Suji.
Yeah.
I think this Meijin overall has been a really quality match.
Yeah.
And it could well go to 7 games. All of these games have been, you know, very entertaining.
Yeah.
And I'd say fairly high quality.
Yeah.
This wasn't a disappointment. This was a good game.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love how Yama actually reversed the game.
I think he played well. He definitely deserved the win here.
Yeah.
He's really his only mistake was I think that exchange on the first day.
Right. Yeah.
Exchanging, the territory on the right for that Moyo. I don't think that was the right strategy. But
yeah.
Other than that, his preparation and his reading was top notch. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, impeccable.
And obviously, he still got it.
He still got it. At 33.
And was this Shibano's best chance to regain the Meijin? We shall see.
We shall see. I mean, this Shibano has to win one more game, and
I do recall last year in the Hininbo, as we've said many times, Shibano was up 3-1.
Yeah.
And in games 5, 6, and 7, Shibano never really was given much of an opportunity to win any of those games. I especially remember game 7. It was a huge dragon that Shibano was chasing around, and it was basically always going to live.
Yeah.
So he never really had much of a chance to win. And in games 5 and 6, he didn't really ever have an advantage.
Yeah.
Whereas in this game, he did definitely have an advantage after day 1.
Yeah.
So will he get another shot?
Yeah. Oh wow! I guess we'll have to see. This is a very exciting series to watch.
Yes, and the next game I believe is on the 24th and 25th of October.
Oh, very soon.
So not too soon. It's not next week.
Right.
But I do think it's on the 24th and 25th.
October. It's not on the calendar. Well, anyway,
we'll fix that.
We'll fix it.
It is on the 24th and 25th. Yes.
Yeah. So another great game. Hopefully another great game to look forward to. Now, from Japan's number one, Iyama Yuta, to China's number one, shall we talk about Koji's statements about Nihon Kiin?
What's this?
This is Koji's statements, online statement. You do recall that we did mention that he went on a stream.
Oh yes,
Koji. Koji. So basically, in his stream, he made this comment about the Nihon Kiin, and apparently this is a very poor translation of what he said. But apparently, Koji said something to the effect of, "They have lots of smelly players," referring to the Nihon Kiin. They play really smelly. Nihon Kiin continues to support a lot of smelly players. The truth. All right. You can say the safety net is good, and then he goes on to say, what does he goes on to say? He goes on to say that the environment for Go in Japan is not competitive enough, and hence it's like broiling the frog. He did say that only a few Japanese players can play, meaning that
there was a quite a robust discussion on this post, and someone mentioned that boiling the frog, what he actually meant was boiling the frog in warm water.
Yeah.
Which apparently that means if you boil a frog in warm water,
yeah,
it will heat up the frog, but the frog probably won't bother to get out because it doesn't feel like it's in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, that's the common myth. Of course, it's the frog doesn't actually do that, but anyway. But we understand.
But I think the what they're trying to suggest is that the Nihon Kiin, the Japanese players, they have a financial safety net, apparently, according to Koji, such that they're not incentivized to win games as much as Korea and China, and thus they don't. They're not as driven to succeed at the same level as China and Korea. That's what Koji apparently is suggesting.
Yes. Now, of course, just a bit of explanation, or smelly or odorous or stinky, whatever the correct translation is. A lot of times they in Chinese they use the word "chou," which has all of those meanings, to mean like poor play or bad play, or just the player just plays really badly. So basically, that's literally what Koji says. Koji is basically saying, Nihon Kiin has a lot of players that play really badly, and they don't bother improving themselves because they have this safety net to get a salary or whatever from the Nihon Kiin. So it's really safe. And of course, what Yenny Young here, he's very active in the Go community. He translates Japanese articles into Chinese and Chinese articles into Japanese, I think. So he obviously bothered to put exactly what Koji said into tweet, and it causes fairly robust discussions online. So
now it also should be worth noting that Koji, I don't remember the last time he actually played against a Nihon Kiin player.
Right.
I genuinely don't remember. It hasn't been in the Nongshim Cup. He's never played a Japanese player in the Nongshim Cup.
Yeah.
He may have played one in a world major.
Right.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah,
but
I don't remember.
Very, very. He doesn't play against them in Jar League because Nihon Kiin players hardly ever play in Jar League.
Right.
So he doesn't actually. This isn't really first-hand knowledge from Koji. He really doesn't play against the Nihon Kiin very much. He may play them on Fox. I guess he might play them online.
Right.
In unofficial games. I would find that very surprising if he actually did.
Yeah.
But this seems to be just his observations. And Koji, in the past, he's a little bit more, I guess, quieter now. But in the past, he was quite a provocative person online.
Yeah.
To the point that a lot of his comments, I would say they were borderline immature and misogynistic.
Right. Yeah.
several years ago online.
Yeah.
To the extent that I think he had people were suggesting that he had a bad influence on Chinese youth.
Yeah.
And there was of course that infamous incident where a Chinese schoolboy was caught being a peeping tom.
Right.
If you recall, I believe you may have been the one that told me this story.
Yeah.
He was caught being a peeping tom at a school, and he committed suicide.
Right.
And he mentioned Koje in his suicide note.
Yeah. That was just a bizarre news item coming out of China.
Yes, but this was definitely around the time when Koje was being, very provocative.
Yeah.
Koje, by the way, at the time was by far the best player in the world.
Yeah.
As well. He was winning major titles left and right. Super strong player.
Yeah.
Seemingly unbeatable. But he was very brash personality. He still does have a brash personality.
Yeah.
He's quite outspoken, but back then it was it could have he did say some quite nasty things about women and things like that.
Right.
I'm not going to I don't really want to go into too much detail because I don't have any specifics.
Yeah.
Perhaps a bit unfair to call him those things, but yeah, he did seem to have a bit of a bad influence.
Yeah.
And I think it got to the extent that after that incident happened with that schoolboy, he actually closed his Weibo account.
Yeah.
So he certainly doesn't talk about women nowadays the way he used to in the past, and he's said some positive things recently about Choi Jong.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
But he's still a little bit provocative, as we've seen here. A little bit outspoken. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Not the types of comments that he's making now. It's fine to have a personality in sport, and it's fine for him to be arrogant and things. And I think I don't think this statement that he's saying here, these comments that he's saying here, should be considered completely in negative light, just slagging off the Nihon Kiin. It could be treated as constructive criticism.
Yeah. I think even if I go to use Google Translate on some of the comments made in reply in Japanese, I think, or from some of the comments I've read, which I guess is like a second-hand source, is that a lot of people in Japan even agree with Koje to some degree. So,
the results speak for themselves, I would say. As we've mentioned before, Japan have not won a world major since 2005.
Yeah.
They haven't won a Nongshim Cup since, I think, 2005 as well.
Right.
They won their only Nongshim Cup in 2006, actually.
Right. Yeah.
They haven't won it since then. They finished, the most recent Nongshim Cup second, and that was the first time in many. That was actually the first time since they won the Nongshim Cup in 2006 that they haven't come last.
Yeah.
So that's 15. It was 15 straight years that they came third out of 3 in the Nongshim Cup.
Yeah.
So the results speak for themselves. Japan have fallen behind China and Korea in the international circuit.
Yeah.
Kojo's just trying to give an explanation. He's giving his opinion as to why that's the case.
Yeah. I do remember there's also a very someone did an analysis of the if I'm wrong, the similarity of the moves to AI, and they compared the Chinese players, Korean players, and Japanese players, and the Japanese players do tend to fall behind a little bit. So therefore, even if you use similarity to AI moves as a measure of as an objective measure of strength. Japanese players on average do tend to fall a little bit behind than the Chinese or Korean players. So, and that's kind of reflected in the international performance. So I do personally hope that Japan will do much better internationally, but we shall see. So let's leave this Kyoje controversy behind to see how Kyoje does in domestic tournaments, maybe. All right, let's see. Shall we move on to some domestic tournaments that's happened in China? And,
yes, absolutely. There's been 2 domestic tournaments, am I right, this week?
Yes. So that's been the Da Qishi, which is the Player of Greatness tournament. And in that one, so let's look at the results. Now we have a Kyoje playing in this one. Kyoje played 2 games. So this Kyoje, he just managed to beat Yiling Tao, which is featured here. And we also have Wang Xinghao progressing further into the tournament. So this is the chart here. So Kyoje managed to beat Yiling Tao. Surprising or maybe not so surprisingly, Yang Kai-wan, who's actually been doing quite well recently, he managed to beat Yang Dingxin in the tournament. And then Wang Xinghao, one of our favorites, managed to beat Hsu Chiayuan to progress into the quarterfinal. Deng Yifei beat Zhang Weijie, and Tang Weixin beat Chen Yaoye. Zhao Chenyu beat Tan Xiao. Mi Yuting beat Xie Ke. And I think the Chen Shin and Gu Cao game has not yet to be played. So whoever wins the Da Qishi tournament will challenge Ding Hao for the title. So this is only the second Da Qishi. And in China, they're really trying to squeeze these games in whenever they can. So just some results over there for you. And also, there's another tournament called the Ahan Tongshan Cup. That's the same as the Japanese tournament called Aegon Kirirama. And the winner of the Chinese and Japanese editions of the tournament, they will play each other.
Yes, and we had the winner of the Japanese tournament last week.
Yeah.
Arata Tomoya.
Yeah. So let's see who wins the Chinese tournament. So the Chinese tournament continue for a few rounds. So we got a lot of big name, being knocked out. So for example, so in this game, it's okay. So Gu Zhihao beat Tojiashi, and Xie Hao beat Tang Weixing, and Tang Weixing had been beat Fan Tingyu a couple of days before this game, and but this was not Tang Weixing's day. So Tang Weixing couldn't overcome Xie Hao, but the biggest surprise came in the next 2 days. Now, firstly, Kyoje and Li Xuanhao both played. And if you recall, Kyoje and Li Xuanhao are ranked number 1 and 2 in China by the official rankings, and they both lost. So they're both knocked out in round 1 by Tong Mong Cheng and Li Xuanhao by Yang Kai-wan. So Yang Kai-wan's doing really, really well recently. He's beaten... Yep.
Yeah. He's beaten Li Xuanhao, yeah.
Isn't Li Xuanhao beaten Yang Dingxin?
And wait, and he's still in the Dai Chi Shi.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
so he's
nice.
Yeah, so he's on Weibo, on Chinese social media, there was one comment that says, "Oh, don't put your hopes on Kyoje or Li Xuanhao. Start, looking to Yang Kai-wan. That's how hot his form is. But he could be another shooting star because it tends to happen in China. Now that's,
I just want to mention the Kyoje. So Kyoje lost. This was the day after game 1 of the Nongshim Cup.
Yeah.
And remember, the game 1 of the Nongshim Cup, he went on his own private stream.
Yeah.
And just started chatting about Weiqi.
Yeah.
Like knowing he had a game the next day.
Yeah.
And it's just funny he asked his audience if he should commentate on the game because his understanding is so much better than everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the very next day he goes and loses.
It's just hilarious. Yeah.
I mean, it's just he's still one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
But just the timing is just so funny.
It's just so funny. But even though Kyrgyz gets knocked out, but remember Li Xuanhao also got knocked out, and but
Yeah, that's true. And interestingly enough, although
Yeah.
it's not a huge difference, both of them actually played as white.
right, yeah.
Under Chinese rules, that's a very, very slight advantage, but
Yeah.
it is a bit of an advantage.
It's 1 point,
And
yeah.
yeah, and they both lost.
Yeah.
So
I,
a bit of a surprise in the Chinese domestic scene. And then last week, remember, Shinjin-so lost twice. Shinjin-so actually hasn't won a game this month, by the way.
Yeah, I probably won't win another one.
Well, no, the Samsung Cup is
Okay. Samsung Cup
is
might
at
be
the
coming.
very end,
Yeah.
but he's at risk of going winless for the entire October. But this week's not about Shinjin-so. It's about apparently it's about Koje and Li Junhao. Very surprising to see them both knocked out.
Okay, yeah. So that's not all. So on one day, number 1, number 2 get knocked out. Now you have to keep in mind these games happened during the Nongshim Cup, so there was probably not that great amount of coverage on these games. But the next day, number 4 and number 5 being Gu Zihao and Mi Yuting were also knocked out of the Ahan Tongshan Cup. So that was pretty crazy. So they were knocked out by. Let me check. Oh, I don't have the games here.
Shi Wei, I believe, knocked out Mi Yuting.
Yeah, Shi Wei knocked out Mi Yuting, and then we have Xie Hao popping up again. He knocked out Gu Zihao. So so that's it. So now the 8 players that are left, I only have 7 here. I think one of them, I think because they try to squeeze the games in, I think one of them actually has have already made the semifinal. I believe it's Huang Yunsong, who's actually already made the semifinal. But
maybe 2 of them have made the semifinal because there's actually only 6 names there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can't remember. Yeah. Probably. And look, the players that are left: Xie Hao, Yang Kai-wen, Huang Yinsong, Xu Yue, Li Qingchen, Tong Mengzheng. You wouldn't say they're the biggest names in Chinese Weiqi,
No, they're not the biggest. I mean, none of them even made the Nongshim Cup.
So definitely a tournament of surprises. So as I mentioned, number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5 are gone. And remember, this tournament started off as a 16-player tournament. The top 8 by Chinese rankings are seeded, and then the next 8 had to go through a quarterfinal. So the top 8 players in China are all there, I think, but now they're almost all gone. I think maybe one of them was in the top 8. I can't remember, but yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. So that's a bit of an update in the Chinese domestic scene. Before we move to looking at the latest Korean rankings, Gaza.
Yeah, so this is the rankings that was released at the beginning of October. We missed them. We didn't talk about them last week, but we can talk about them this week.
Yeah.
They're still up to date. It's still October, so.
So we have Shin Jin-so, unsurprisingly, topping the ranking for the 34th month straight.
Oh, no kidding.
No kidding. Now, what may be a little bit of a surprise is that Park Jun-hwan loses the 2nd spot to Byun Sang-il.
Yeah, that is a big surprise because how long has Park Jun-hwan been in the top 2?
I think he's been in the number 2 spot for can't be, but he might be in the top 2 for like a decade almost. I think maybe 9 years and 5 months. I'm not 100% sure about this, but
Shin Jin-so has been in the top ranking for 34 months,
right?
And for the previous 33, Park Jun-hwan was 2nd,
right?
And Park Jun-hwan was the previous number 1, so he's been in the top 2 for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. So he's just slipped to 3.
Yeah, a bit of a strange to see him out of the top 2. I certainly don't remember the last time he was out of the top 2, but Byun Sang-il is now number 2 in Korea.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how if it's gonna be a brief number 2, but whatever it may be. And then we have Shin Minjun and Kang Dongyun tying for 4th. And
yes. So Kang Dongyun was already 4th.
Right.
Shin Minjun was 5th last month, so there's really no change there.
Right.
And the rest of the top 10, there's no change.
Right.
Choi Jong
Yep.
is still the number 1 female player, of course, but she's dropped to 30th
Right.
in Korea overall.
Yep.
So fairly low ranking for her.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the hero of the GG Auction Cup, Cho Han Seong,
Mm-hmm.
he's gone up to 22nd. He was
Oh, wow.
33rd.
Oh, wow.
So he was actually ranked below Choi Jong
Right.
for the GG Auction Cup final game, but now he's above Choi Jong.
Yeah. An oldie but a goodie.
A bit of a worrying one. Lee Ji-hyun,
Right.
2 months ago he was 10th
Right.
in Korea. He is now 23rd.
Oh, no.
And I say this is worrying because he's actually part of the Asian Games team for Korea.
Yeah.
He qualified for that team a few months ago. The Asian Games is not for, another 10 or 11 months.
Right. Yeah.
But it is a bit worrying to see one of the Korean team members, seemingly out of form, falling down the rankings.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can pick back up that form.
Yeah.
That saw him make the team. Obviously by the way, the for those who are unaware, the Asian Games is basically the only way that Korean Baduk players can avoid military service.
Right. Yeah.
It used to be in the past. It used to be that if you won an international title, a world major, basically, you could be exempt from military service.
Yeah.
But the rule now is that it's Asian Games or nothing.
Yeah.
And of the 6 players in the Asian Games team for Korea, Park Jun-won was actually in the previous Asian Games team in 2010.
Right.
And that team won the Asian Games, so Park Jun-won already has the exemption.
Yep.
Lee Ji-hyun has already served has already completed his military service. He completed it last year.
Yep.
He served in the Navy.
Yep.
So he doesn't need an exemption because he's already finished it. The other 4 members of the team, Shin Minjun, Shin Jin-so, Byun Sang-il, and Kim Yong-hun, have not yet had their military service, nor do they have an exemption.
Right.
So they are looking to win a gold medal in the Asian Games.
Right.
And Shin Jin-so, at the very least, will almost certainly be playing in the individual competition, along with one other Korean player. But there's also the team competition. So for the other team members that aren't competing in the individual competition, the team competition is the only way they can get their exemption.
Right. Yeah.
And the team competition, it's not like Nongshim Cup where you can just have one player win everything. It's everyone plays. Well, at least I think it's at least 5 players play. So, and you have to get the most points. You have to get the most overall wins. So you need all your players doing well. So they're really hoping that all the players are in form. This is I would imagine for these guys, this Asian Games is like the most important event of their careers.
Right. Yeah.
Like even more than a world major.
Yeah.
So you'd be thinking this is like their primary goal for next year.
Yeah.
And to see Lee Ji-hyun at 23rd is a little bit of a concern.
Yes. Yes.
A little bit, but
yeah.
I'm sure he'll bounce back.
Yeah.
But we shall see. It hasn't been a good JAR league for him for sure.
No, it's terrible.
Other movements. Where is Han Woo-jin? He's 33rd.
Yep.
So he's there or thereabouts. He was 30th, so he's fallen down a little bit. Moon Min-jung is 43rd.
Yep. Cracked the top 50 at least.
Yes, but he was 40th last season.
Right.
And one that we do need to mention is Kang Seung-min.
Right.
Now, Kang Seung-min has actually moved into the top 50 this month.
Very nice.
He moved up 7 spots to 47th. Now, why is that surprising? Well, some of you who are a bit more familiar with the Korean rankings would be shocked to hear that Kang Seung-min has moved up to 47th.
Right.
Because Kang Seung-min was sort of a regular top 20 player.
Right.
In fact, in July, he was 18th.
Right.
So what happened? And then in August, he was 60th. He dropped 42 spots from 18th to 60th.
Yeah.
So what happened? So the answer is, he played in the Chinese Yi League.
Yep.
And we did cover that. The Chinese Yi League. That's the second. It's basically the second division of the Chinese League after the Jia League.
Yeah.
And he played in it. So why would he lose points? He certainly didn't play badly in the Yi League. He had around 4 wins, 3 losses, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, a bit above 50%. So he wouldn't have lost maybe not any points.
Mm.
But what happened was he was actually playing in another domestic league in Korea at the same time. Now there's sort of an internal domestic league in Korea for pros.
Yep.
And that you can sort of you just volunteer to enter.
Yeah.
And they sort of have like 6 divisions or 6 or 7 divisions, and there's 15 players in each division.
Yeah.
And it's just a round robin, so you play 14 games.
Yeah.
And I think players enter this league just so they have the opportunity to play games, just so they can play games, because a lot of the Korean competitions are knockouts, or at the very least the qualifying sections are knockouts. So if you lose one game, that's it. You don't play any more games in that competition. Whereas this league, this internal league, gives players an opportunity to play a guaranteed 14 games.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you move up and down divisions depending on how you did in the previous league. And they have like 2 or 3 of these seasons a year.
Yeah.
So you know, you can definitely get some quality game time via this league, and that's where a lot of players play. And Kang Seung-min did enter this league.
Yeah.
And so he was playing in it, and apparently, I believe that one of his games clashed with Yi League.
Yeah.
And what I heard, or what I've insinuated from what people have told me, is that he decided, obviously he chose to play the Yi League game.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense because they're actually paying him good money to play in the Yi League.
Yeah.
The Chinese sponsors, that is. And he just didn't turn up for his Korean League game.
Yeah.
And the Korean League didn't respond to that too well. Like, they didn't take too kindly to that, him just not showing up.
Yeah.
And so they actually not only did they forfeit him for that game, but they forfeited him for all of his remaining games in the league.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And the league's in its very early stages. He ended up forfeiting 12 games, I believe.
Yeah.
So basically, he got assigned an automatic loss on all of those games.
Yeah.
And that's why he lost so many points. He moved from 18th to 60th.
Yeah.
And you know, I spoke to, you know, a Korean friend as well as, you know, a couple of Korean friends actually, and they looked into it, and they basically said he deserved it. Apparently,
Wow.
It's sort of unprecedented, and it was a very harsh punishment by the Korean Association. But apparently, Kang Seung-min deserved it.
Right.
So I'm guessing what happened was there was a clash,
Yeah.
and instead of trying to resolve it
Yeah.
with the Korean Association, he essentially just played in the Yi League and ignored his domestic game. That's my guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
I don't know the exact details, but
Yeah.
what I've definitely been told is that he was forfeited his games,
Yeah.
and he deserved it.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So yeah, he went out. I remember seeing this when the rankings were released, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I did have to ask why he went from 18th to 60th, but well, it seems like, you know, he's copped his punishment, and he's slowly trying to get back into, you know, the top 20, but he's only just moved back into the top 50.
Yeah, I do wonder, what does being lower in the ranking mean? Like, does it mean that you have to play, start lower down in the qualification tiers or whatever it is? I'm not sure what is actually the thing that will, that's going to be causing him
from
pain.
what I've seen, I do remember the Hanguk Kiwon Championship having different stages in qualifying, and I do believe that the higher ranked you were, the later the qualifying stage you entered.
Right. Yeah.
But for most of the other tournaments, it seemed like your ranking didn't really affect how many games you played in qualifiers.
Right. Yeah.
And only the very, 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 like the very highest, like top 5 or top 4 in the rankings, it made a difference because they didn't have to qualify at all. Right? Yeah. They get fitted directly into the main tournament. But other than that, it didn't matter what your ranking was, except for that Hanguk Kiwon Championship.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So maybe he's just missing out on a few, a few spots in the qualifying, but doesn't feel like such a biggie. But whatever. Okay. So from the Korean ranking, Gaza, shall we move on to a competition that we also very much look forward to, maybe second only to the Nongshim Cup, and that is the Hoban Cup.
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, what is this Hoban Cup, Gaza? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So the Hoban Cup is essentially, well, it could be considered the women's version of the Nongshim Cup.
Yeah.
The Nongshim Cup is obviously not a men's tournament. It's an open tournament.
Yeah.
But like many open tournaments, there are often there are women's only tournaments.
Yeah.
And this can very much be considered a women's version of the Nongshim Cup because it is the same format as the Nongshim Cup. It just features women.
Yeah.
So there are 5 players from China, 5 from Japan, 5 from Korea.
Yeah.
Win and continue. So if you win, you keep playing. If you lose, you're eliminated.
Yeah.
The country that's last remaining after 2 other countries have been eliminated wins.
Yeah.
And this one is following straight after the Nongshim Cup. So we're being treated this October.
Yeah.
But unlike the Nongshim Cup, which started this week, the Hoban Cup is actually entering the second phase.
Yeah.
Because for those who have been following our podcast, the first phase of the Hoban Cup happened earlier this year. I don't remember when exactly. Was it?
I also don't remember when, but it was a while ago. I do remember.
Yes, it was actually in May.
Right. Yeah.
May. It finished May 28th, maybe.
Yep.
Yes, and so I think it's game 8 that is starting tomorrow or maybe today.
Yeah.
For those listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's already happened. But since it's round 8, we should give a brief reminder or a recap of what happened in the first 7 games. Now, China have a very strong position thanks to their first player, Wu Yiming.
Yep.
She won her first 5 games.
5 games, yeah.
So she beat Nakamura Sumire.
Yep.
She beat
Lee
Salju. Yeah, sorry. Then she beat Ayumi Suzuki, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
Then she beat Hyo So-hyun.
Yep.
And then I think she beat Ji Min.
That's right.
Before finally falling in game 6 to Kim Chae-young.
Yep.
Of Korea.
Yep.
And then in game 7, Kim Chae-young in turn lost to Fujisawa Arena of Japan.
Yep. Correct. Yeah.
So that leaves China still have 4 players left.
Yep.
While Japan and Korea are both down to 2 players. And China's next player is Lee He.
Lee He, yep.
So game 8 will be Fujisawa Arena versus Lee He.
Yep.
China, after that, still have Lu Minchuan, Zhou Hongyu, and Yu Zhiying.
Yep.
Japan, along with Fujisawa Arena, have Yuno Asami.
Yep.
While Korea have Oyujin and Choi Jong.
That's right.
Now, the Hoban Cup will be played. It will be played across the next 7 days. This Hoban Cup will be finished by next Friday.
Correct.
It could possibly be finished earlier than that, but
yes,
for sure we will find out by Friday.
Next podcast.
Who the winner of the inaugural Hoban Cup is.
Yeah. And
like I said, it's looking very strong for China thanks to Wu Yiming's solid start.
Yeah.
Although you could say that Korea probably had the best women's player in the world.
Yeah, Choi Jong.
Choi Jong. Yeah. It will be difficult for her. She will have to win at least, up to 4 games, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many she would have to at least win. Maybe she has to win at least 2, but she might have to win up to 4 games.
Yeah.
And her form's been a little bit rickety. I believe she has actually lost recently to a fellow Korean women's pro.
Yeah.
Of course, she lost to Oyujin in the Wu Qingwan Cup as well.
Correct.
But we shall see. Maybe Oyujin herself, she is still in this Hoban Cup, so she might go on a tear.
Yeah.
Very hard to say.
Yeah.
Of course, the Chinese players didn't play very well in the Wu Qingwan Cup, but maybe, that was maybe a month ago now, so maybe that was improved.
Yeah.
It's going to be very exciting, though.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Now, unlike the Nongshim Cup, the Hoban Cup has only 2 stages. I think we talked about that. And they just play 7 games in stage 1 and then 7 games, up to 7 games in stage 2. So, it will be all wrap up next Friday.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I actually prefer that, having seven games in each stage. It's quite a chunky number of games, but I like it. With the Nongshim Cup having 4 games in one stage, it just seems a little bit premature.
Yeah.
But the Nongshim Cup, they like to stretch it out. They like this, they stretch it out into the following year. So I'd say I prefer this format, but I just prefer. I don't mind either. Just like having the tournament.
Yeah, I was just so happy that Hoban Cup follows immediately after the Nongshim Cup. So you can just watch Baduk for 2 weeks straight. So Gaza, unless you have anything else to mention,
I do have one more thing I want to mention. Very important. Our favorite Japanese player played this week. Yes, you know who I'm talking about, Connor Rin.
Yeah, Connor Rin. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did have Meijin. We talked about Meijin Game 5, the title match. Of course, qualifying for the next season's Meijin has already started, and it's into the final qualifying stages.
Right.
And one of the qualifying matches was Hane Naoki.
Yeah.
Versus Connor Rin.
Yeah.
And Connor Rin won that game.
Nice.
Now, that doesn't mean he's qualified for the Meijin main tournament. He hasn't qualified for the Meijin League yet. He still needs to win 2 more games.
2 more games, yep.
But he's still in there, and we all enjoy that.
Yeah. We're all rooting for him to make the league, but hopefully not become challenger again. I do see that in his group, he's got Otakeyu still to come, so that does look like the most familiar name in his group. So,
speaking of Otakeyu, he also played this week, and maybe we should mention this one, the Qishi Challenger tournament.
That's right.
So we did mention that. I think we mentioned very briefly in a previous podcast that Otakeyu was the Group C winner.
Yep.
And as such, he played the Group B champion. Who was that? Suzuki Shinji, was it?
Yeah, Suzuki Shinji.
Yes, and he beat the Group B champion, which meant he moved on to face the Group A champion, who was the veteran Yamashita Keigo.
Yes.
And he looked like he was going to win that game, actually.
Yeah, he was.
But he made one misstep, one mistake, and lost.
Yeah. But only half a point.
Yes. But it doesn't matter if it's by half a point or by resignation. A loss is a loss.
Yeah.
Which means that his hopes for the next to be the next Kisei are gone.
Yeah.
But it's not all bad. He does get promoted to League B next season.
Very nice.
Whereas Yamashita Keigo will now progress to face the second place of Group S.
Yeah.
Takao Shinji.
Yeah.
The winner of that, of course, will have to beat Shibano Toramaru twice.
Twice in a row, yeah.
Otherwise, Shibano will be the challenger.
Yeah.
To Ichiriki Ryo, the current Kisei.
Yeah. You would have to...
Yes. You mentioned something about if Otake did become the challenger, by the way.
Yeah. Now, this may be something that we have missed, and I think the best information I got was, now imagine if Otake actually, beat Yamashita Keigo, Takao Shinji, and Shibano Toramaru, he would actually become challenger. Now, what that means is Otake will get automatic promotion to the S League. Now, S League normally would relegate 4 players.
2 players.
2 players. And the top 4 players gets retained. But I do believe that if Otake was to become the challenger, then the third last player, meaning the 4th player, would also get relegated. Meaning he'll basically Otake or the loser of the title match would actually take the 4th player's place.
So typically 2 players from the A League get promoted to the S League. So I would have assumed either the 2nd spot in the A League would not get promoted, or the 4th spot in the S League would get demoted. And you're saying it's probably the 4th spot in the S League?
Yeah, that's what the information I got was. But obviously I can't confirm that, and I don't think it's written on their page.
Yes, it's certainly never happened.
Yes, so it's not happened yet because this format hasn't been around for that long. But if that was to happen, what that means is the 4th place in the S League, which is Iyama Yuta, who was the previous Kisei, would actually get relegated, and that would have been a crazy disaster for Iyama.
That would have been quite a shock.
Yeah.
By the way, I believe that actually would have only happened if Otake was the challenger and lost the title match.
No, if he wins, then okay, yeah.
Because Ichiriki
was always going to get a spot anyway, right?
He was always going.
No. Because if
you're right. Because
the S League winner would retain their spot as well. Yeah.
Yes, the S League winner would retain their spot and 2nd place.
Correct.
Yes, you're right.
So someone would have to be. So I mean, it doesn't.
There's not enough room.
Correct. It doesn't feel right to kind of prefer the. The S League and just remove a place from the B League or something. Then what happens? So then everything have to percolate down. It's like maybe that's too hard. Maybe they do just remove the player from the S League.
Right. It would have. Now I want to see that happen someday.
Yeah, that would at least, if that happened, that would at least clarify the rules, because I actually don't know what actually happens.
We could ask the Nihon Kiin.
Yeah.
Maybe one of our listeners knows what would happen if the C League champion ends up becoming the challenger.
Yeah, I have an innovative solution to this, which is to temporarily for 1 year increase the S League to 7 players. But that's probably not going to work.
That's one theory, but
don't know.
Yeah. It's not that bad an idea. It's not that bad an idea, but it's
might be hard to schedule. But anyway, so that's it. So that's the. Was there anything else you wanted to mention, Gaza?
No, that's it for me. No, we do have. We do have the calendar. We actually do have the Tengen Game 2 next week.
Yeah. So the calendar.
And not only that, but we actually have the Urza Game 1 next week. Yes.
Yeah, so crazy. So of course we talked about the Hoban Cup. We'll run through the whole of next week. This is 7 days straight. And then as you mentioned, we have the Tengen. Game 2, Seki Kataru versus Ita Ashishi. And then also Game 1. Game 1 will start.
That's Iyama Yuta versus Yu Zhengqi.
Yeah, so at least 3 big competitions to look forward to next week. Yeah, very good. So thanks for another great episode, Gaza.
My pleasure.
And we'll say goodbye and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.